about to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free.
Okay, hey Colin, how you doing?
I'm doing well, James. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just as the timer cut off, my earphone fell out of my ear, so pardon me while I shove this thing back in. Anyway, I wanted to welcome everybody that's joined us and the ones that are going to be joining us in the replay. Today we have Colin Ward with us. He's a Florida-based photographer. We're going to be having a conversation about Colin's photography work and his processes. We're going to go through some of his images, and we just want to welcome Colin. So Colin, why don't you give us a little brief background about yourself and your photography?
Okay, thanks, Jim. I'm glad that you invited me to do this, and I'm glad to be here. I think we met through a Facebook group called Models Photographers Networking Events of Florida. I believe that's where we first met, but anyway, we both participate in that, and we've had a lot of fun shooting together, and I'm looking forward to going through some of my photos with you, everybody. And I'm primarily going to be showing portraiture, but I do want to give you just a brief history of how long I've been doing this and where I started from and that kind of thing.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So do you want to pull up the first picture?
Yeah, let's cut over here to this screen. And I think I've got this out of order right this second, so bear with me 1 second. And I will There we go.
Yep, there we go. That's it.
Okay.
So I grew up in England and lived there until I was 14. And when I was 7, I was given a box camera, Kodak box camera, and I started shooting. And I shouldn't say shooting. I started taking a few pictures, and this is very possibly one of the first ones I took. And it's horrible in terms of focus and so forth, but I still like the subject matter, which is the dog and cat we had at the time looking at the fireplace. So anyway, that was a long time ago. And so I've had a long history as a photographer, but I've never done it for a living. It's always been more or less a hobby, or maybe a side gig, if you want to call it that. So that was from my box camera, and if you go to the next one, you'll see that I improved a little bit and took a couple of horses on a place called Chorleywood Common, which again is not too far from London. And by that time I had started developing my own film in a darkroom, actually bathroom, and making contact prints. So I got a pretty early start doing that. I'm not sure how old I was when this was taken, but probably in the neighborhood of 10 years old. And then at some point, when still in England, I got my first 35 millimeter camera, which was a big step in the right direction. And as I got older, I eventually moved up into a Nikon Nicomat and took a college course in photography. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that I got considerably better. This is one of my first portraits. That's my dad. And this is after we had left England and moved to Ohio. And that was a shot that I took with the Nicomat. And I believe, it's been a long time ago, I don't really remember, but I believe I developed and printed the film at that point. And continued after the college course to improve a little bit. And then I went on to start shooting slides. And for many years, I would shoot slides in the 35 millimeter Nicomat. And until digital came along. So go ahead, Jim. Let's see what's next.
Okay.
So this is a project I've been doing during COVID, and being stuck at home, was getting my slides out, which were still in slide trays, and digitizing them. So I spent hours doing that, and now I pretty much have them all done at this point. So this is what a scanned slide looks like. This is my wife, probably from the 80s, not quite sure what year that was. But the slides actually scanned pretty well, and I was pretty happy to get that done. And now I've got most of those slides on my hard drive, so I can look at them or print them and what have you. And the next couple of shots show a trip. This was in California. I worked for a company that was based in California, so I was out there quite a lot. And this slide and the next couple were from a visit out there at some point. So I think you can see that the slides translated pretty well to digital files. Go ahead, Jim.
Not to interrupt you there, but I mean, it's interesting you're doing that project, because I'm doing the very same thing too. Because I follow the same course that you've taken with photography, shooting black and white, doing my own developing and printing, and then moving into color slides probably through the 70s, 80s, and actually all the way into the 90s. So I'm scanning a lot of my old stuff too. Just a technical question, what scanner do you use for your slides?
It's called a PlusTech Optifilm 8100. and it does a good job, but it's very slow. It's very, very slow, and it does one slide at a time.
Yeah.
And if I was to do it again, I might get a flatbed scanner that was high quality and do several at a time.
Yeah.
But I would do it, I'd be multitasking. I'd stick the slide in and start it up, let it do its thing while I'm doing something else,
Right.
and then switch it out for another one.
Right.
So with hundreds of slides, it did take a long time, but it's not like I had to sit there and not do anything else in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want me to move to the next slide?
Yeah, I think there's another one of the California slides there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was. I'm not much of a street photographer, but if I see an opportunity to catch a shot like that, that was on Fisherman's Wharf, near Fisherman's Wharf. I'm not sure if that guy's really a fisherman, but he looked like one, so I took a picture of him.
Yeah, he looks the role.
Yeah. Go ahead to the next slide, if you would.
Okay.
So I mentioned a kind of a history of my cameras. I've got a lot of cameras and went through the point and shoot digitals and so forth, but the one on the left there is my Agfa Silette, which was the 35 millimeter camera I got in England. Agfas were popular there. They were made in Germany, and you could get them in England pretty easily.
Yeah.
And it still works. I just took that picture the other day, so that Agfa's still with me, and it still shoots reasonably well. The camera that's next to it is the Nicomat, which again I got that about the time I went to college, I believe, and it still works. I have film in it right now, and it's a really good camera. It's like a Nikon F. It's the same thing, except it doesn't have interchangeable viewfinders and what have you.
Okay.
And then when I got serious about digital photography, I jumped in with the Fujifilm X-T1, which is the next camera there that you see. I see, Jim, you're wearing a Fujifilm shirt, so we're the Fujifilm team members.
Exactly.
That X-T1 there has a Leica lens on it. I've been using it to play with and adapt different lenses to and what have you. So that's my kind of fun playing around camera. And then I upgraded to the camera on the right, which is my current number one. That's my Fujifilm X-T3. And the vast majority of the serious photographs that you're going to be seeing in a few minutes came from that camera, and some from the X-T1 as well.
Okay.
So I'm real happy with the Fujifilms, and I have quite a stack of lenses and what have you to go with it. And I imagine many of the audience members are photographers, so that I thought they might have some interest in the gear that I'm using. So I thought I'd throw that up.
Very good. I'll move on.
Yep.
There we go.
So this picture shows a small bus that belongs to a company in Dunedin, Florida. And the picture on the side is one that I took with the X-T3. It was a commercial job that I got from the company that owns this place. And if you're ever wondering how big a print you can make from something like a Fujifilm X-T3, there's an example. That one, the specifications called for it to be 8 feet high and 14 feet wide. And it's just a single shot. It's not a panorama or anything. And it blew up very well. And you see the same picture on the other side of the bus and on the back.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm proud to say that my photograph is driving around town and for all to see, although my name is not on it, of course. But anyway, it even if you get up close to the bus, it still looks pretty good. So
yeah,
that's what 26 megapixels looks like, 8 feet high and 14 feet wide.
right.
So go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, I've put together a few shots here that I've taken recently with film, or fairly recently with film. I still mess about with film. It's more of a hobby than anything else. And this first shot is medium format actually, and it's a triple exposure in the camera. There's no Photoshop involved. It's the camera that I was using allows you to wind the shutter back up and take another exposure without winding on the film. So these are in my backyard. There's two different close-up flower shots and then a further back flower shot combined together in the camera. And I kind of like that. That's kind of makes you stop and think a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool.
So go on to the next one, if you would. Okay, this is the one we saw a minute at the beginning. This is another film shot. And I was at an event where I was shooting some models, and this particular shot was taken with a little Pentax 35mm camera on FP4 film. And I thought it came out well. There were several other shots similar to that. And, in black and white, film does a good job. And sometimes in color, not always. And I believe there are a couple more film shots here. If you want to move on.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, I was in Las Vegas for a conference a few months ago, and this is another film shot on Kodak Ektar film. And this little train, a monorail, runs people around Las Vegas, and I was anxious to get a good shot of it. And I took some digital shots, and then I had a little film camera in my pocket, and I took this one, which I thought came out pretty well, and it's sharp and clear, and I like the colors on it.
Yeah.
And I think this is the last film shot I took. Again, I was at an event with some models, and I pulled out the same little point-and-shoot film camera and shot this one in black and white. I believe that's also on FP4 film. And it's kind of grainy, but it gives it character, and I think it looks nice. And when I look at it on my 27-inch computer screen, and looks cool. I like it. So.
It almost looks.
But I wouldn't want to have to shoot.
Excuse me. It almost looks like a movie poster.
Yeah. Well, the models were good, and a lot of them shoots that I do feature models that you'll be seeing, and a lot of the credit for the photo itself and the posing and so forth goes to the models. And the photographer can capture what they do, but they play a large part in getting a decent photo. So what do we got next?
We have
okay, this is
Tatiana.
I mentioned earlier the Facebook group that Jim and I belong to, and the organizer of that is named Vokort Baralaus, if I'm pronouncing that right, online. So if you see that group, and he's the founder of it, but he organized a great shoot in Melbourne, Florida, and that's where this was taken. Tatiana Andre is the subject there, and she was walking around outside with that outfit on, the red hat, red gloves, and green hair tie, or whatever it is, part of the hat maybe. And there was a sunbeam shining on the wall with some texture behind it that was really a pretty well-defined sunbeam. It had come through some gaps in the building. So I got her to go and stand in it like that, and took the shot, and I thought that's kind of one that to me has a lot of impact, and I really like it pretty well. So I'm into my early session of the portraits. I'm going to show you a lot of portraits, but these are some that I think have some impact. And one thing I like to do with my photographs is make them stand out from the crowd. There there are millions of photographs online and all around us these days because everybody has a cell phone that takes decent photos.
Mm-hmm.
So you really need something that has impact, that makes somebody stop and look and pause. Hopefully they pause for a minute and enjoy it. So that's what I go for, and that one there's, I think, has impact.
Yeah, it really does. It actually, I thought you may have lit this one yourself. I didn't realize that was actually a natural light coming in through there, but that's phenomenal image.
Yeah, it's I didn't add any light at all to that one.
Let me go to the next one.
Yep. Okay, this is a model friend from Tampa, and I think there are a couple of shots of her here. She's got a very a face and a look that is that also has a lot of impact. Needless to say, the red hair and the freckles are important.
Yeah.
And I got close in with that one, and to me it looks appealing. So I hope everybody else likes it. And here's another one of her. Her name's Savannah. And no, we're not in a European castle or anything of that kind. This door is on the front of a bar in St. Pete, and we were there when I believe it was a Sunday morning when the bar was closed and the door was looking like that. And it's a no-brainer when you see something like that to take advantage of it and pose the model and get the door with it. That's the story of the.
Are you adding light to this one, or is this natural?
Yes.
Light coming in?
No, I usually, when I shoot outdoors, I'm usually this kind of photograph anyway. I'm usually using some flash and some ambient light.
Mm-hmm.
I combine ambient light and flash, and usually my intent is to make the ambient light portion of the photo about a stop darker than you would really want it to be, and then use the flash to light the model or whatever the subject is perfectly, and that way the model or the subject pops out more because she is brighter.
Yeah.
And your eye always travels to the brightest and sharpest spots in the photograph. And what I typically do is I'll make sure, even in post-production, if I didn't do it well in the field, I'll brighten the model and darken the background, and also do some sharpening on the model or the subject, and leave the background unsharpened. So that's kind of how I get some of the impact.
In the digital darkroom, now do you use Lightroom? What else? What is you, Photoshop, or do you just concentrate on Lightroom?
I use Lightroom on everything, and I use the Lightroom filing systems. And if I need to do something in Photoshop, I'll transfer the file from Lightroom to Photoshop and then back again, and I'll save it from Lightroom.
Yeah.
So that's my process. And I took a course from Scott Kelby at one point about Lightroom, and he taught us how to use their filing system. And at this point, I've been doing that for a few years. And if I want to find a particular file, a particular shot that I took, say, 3 or 4 years ago, I can go right in there and find it almost immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas before that, I was doing the file by date system, and of course, after a year or so has gone by, you have no idea what date you took a particular photo. So, so this Lightroom system works out way better for me.
Yeah, Lightroom is amazing as far as its cataloging and stuff goes.
Right. This is another portrait shot. I didn't use any flash on this one. This was hard light, straight from the sun, and that is actually when I went to Utah and was shooting by the Great Salt Lake, and that is the Great Salt Lake that you see in the background there.
Okay.
And the girl is draped by a piece of lacy fabric, and didn't do much to it in post-processing except color grade it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. I like the color grading you put on that one too.
And here's another portrait shot. This is Rachel, and Gordon Moore and I went downtown to St. Pete to shoot Rachel one evening. And before we really got started, I saw the sun on the building behind her, and she was there standing around. And I said, "Hey, stand there in front of that golden glow, and let's see what we get." And that was the result, and I kind of like that. I believe that's the moon up in the right corner.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
It's it's not something that jumps out at you that you would really notice, but anyway, that's how that came about. And we went on to shoot some street scenes as it got dark, and I believe there's one coming up, or certainly in the show somewhere. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay.
Okay, it's not next, it's later. Again, this was in Utah. I like to shoot fine art nudes, beautiful figure in the landscape type shots. We didn't put any nudes in the show tonight because it's on Facebook and they don't appreciate that for some reason. But anyway, this one here is from that shoot, and as you can see, she's pretty much covered up. But this features backlight on the model. The sun is getting ready to go down behind the mountains there, and the sun's lighting up her hair. And I don't think I used a flash on this. This is just natural light and tweaked in Lightroom a little bit.
Okay.
And a little bit of lens flare there, I believe, too. Go ahead.
We'll go to the next one.
Yep. And from the same shoot, this is also in Utah. And this is Emma. She is hiding in the grass, I guess, hiding in the long grass. And to me, that's a shot I like a lot. Okay, go on to the next one.
Okay.
Okay. I seem to have left out a couple of things I was going to put in, but I'll mention some influences in a few minutes. But this is the beginning of a section where I'm showing dancers. I enjoy shooting ballerinas and other kinds of dancers, and this was one of the first ballerina shots, well, the first ballerina shot I did, and I wanted to do it on the street. I don't know whether anybody's familiar with a guy named Jordan Matter. He's published a couple of books about dancers, and some of them, they're really all on the street as well, but in New York. His books are pretty entertaining, and I decided I would try that in St. Pete. So I contacted the local ballet school, which is not far from my house, and asked if there was a ballerina who might like to get a photo taken. So Brianna here was the result of that. And we met downtown in St. Pete on a Sunday morning when it wasn't too busy, and started shooting around the Museum of Fine Arts and in the street and alleys and so forth. And that's one of them. So why don't you move on and let's see what else. That's another shot of Brianna.
And I think we got another one coming up.
Yeah, that's okay. There she is in front of the Museum of Fine Arts. And I believe that's all of her.
Yeah. Now let's
okay.
studio.
Yeah, I've got a couple of shots that I took in my own studio. I have a studio that I set up and break down on my enclosed patio, and this young lady's name is Kelsey, and she's been a dancer for, I believe she said 13 years, and Gordon Moore and I were shooting her and her yoga partner, and I got her to do some dance moves in the studio. My studio is really not big enough to do much in the way of jumping and that kind of thing, but she was able to do this in front of the background, and I was happy with the way that turned out. And I was shooting against a white background, which is I tweaked to make yellow. So that's Kelsey, and what else do we have here?
Looks like
this is Sam.
Sam, yeah.
Yep, that's Sam. This is at one of Eric's shoots again. We were able to shoot in a high-end studio in Orlando not too long ago, and they had a very large cyclorama wall in the back, which is basically a long white wall and a white floor that fit together with a curved surface so that there's really not an edge to be seen. And I was able to place a light at each end of the floor there. And Sam has been a gymnast for years and years, and she hadn't done it too much lately, but she really got it together and did some great jumps for me. And the two flashes were like a sandwich, so they make her pop out from the background real well. And I captured quite a few of Sam in motion, and she has some fantastic looks. I believe there's another one after this one.
I think it's a little further on for Sam.
Okay, there's another one coming up.
Yeah. This
is another dancer, a friend called Irina, and I went to shoot a couple of dancers in Ybor City. This is Emily. She's a dance major at the University of Tampa. And as you can see, she's on the sidewalk, and I used a flash for this shot, capture her, and the rest of the shot is pretty much out of focus, and but I captured the froze the action, I thought, pretty well, and I really like that shot of Emily.
Yeah. And
the next shot is the other dancer who was with us that day, and let's see, her name's Natasha, and we were shooting in an alley in Ybor, and lo and behold, a chicken came along and joined us, and I thought that made the shot interesting.
Yeah.
So Natasha is also a dance major at the University of Tampa.
I know there's a place, a park over there in Ybor that has all those chickens that run around loose in there.
Right. Yeah, we weren't far from a railroad track that the Amtrak train goes by on, and there were chickens all over the place around that area.
Yeah.
And they roam freely. I suppose they find plenty to eat from the stuff thrown out from restaurants and what have you. Okay, what's next? This back on the cyclorama wall. This is Yassi. She's doing some moves for me too, and I was using what's called second curtain flash. For any of you photographers, you might want to duplicate something like that, where the ambient light illustrates her motion, but the flash captures her stationary, freezes her in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, thank you. And again, some more dancers on the street. This is an intersection in St. Petersburg, that's been painted. The whole intersection's painted multicolors, and we went out and shot her. She's more of a modern dancer, not a ballerina. Shot her in several different spots, and I like the one that just shows the traffic lights and the regular street. Nothing fancy, but we had a flash with us to freeze her and make her pop out from the background. And let's see what's next. Okay, there she is again, and we in St. Petersburg we have a post office that is outdoors. At least some of it's outdoors, and that passageway behind her has mailboxes that people go, rent and have keys for and so forth, and it's all outdoors, except it's under this archway, which I think is one of the more attractive buildings in St. Pete. They call it the outdoor post office.
Okay.
And captured her doing a great jump in front of it. Go ahead.
Sam again.
Oh, there's Sam again. Again, we're back in the big studio with the cyclorama wall. And Sam's doing another great move. I was using the same lighting setup that I mentioned before. And I gave the white wall a little pink treatment to get this shot. And Sam did a great job. And I think that has impact. That's something I like about it.
Yeah. Now the pink is in post, right?
Yes.
Because I don't
Yes.
remember you having gels at the time. So.
No, I didn't. It was shot with the background white. Are we getting any questions in, Jim?
None so far. Let me see if does anyone have any questions. We're monitoring the Facebook, so we could answer any questions that anybody would have. So pop them in there if you've got any. None so far, though, Colin.
Okay. Well, some of the things I like, I keep saying impact, but I also like telling a story, and I also think that it's important to be able to see what you want to shoot. If you're just walking around, you see shadows, you see sunlight, you see backlighting on flowers, you can see all kinds of things if you just start paying attention. And I've learned to do that as a photographer over the years, and that doesn't really pertain to this shot here at all, but once again, we're back at Green Gables, and Eric, the organizer of our group, brought this wonderful bathtub, and I decided to place the leg in a vertical position, not show the rest of the owner, and then I added a couple of other shots of the leg to show some motion. So that's my leg in a bathtub shot.
So you blended those in Photoshop?
Yes, I did. Yes. Actually, for the photographers, I had the camera on a tripod so I wouldn't move, and shot the same shot with the leg in 3 different places.
Right.
And combined the shots, basically.
Right.
I'm going to show you some more Photoshop work in a few more slides.
Okay.
That are kind of like that, but different. Okay, another Green Gable shot. This is a portrait of Haley, or Ophelia, and it was kind of an old, slightly run-down sort of place, and I like the story here. I leave the story up to your imagination, but here's this girl dressed in kind of unusual old-style clothes on a bed with no mattress and no curtains, just kind of plain Jane shot. So I think there's a story there, but it's up to the viewer to interpret it how they wish.
Mm-hmm.
What's next? Same place, also Green Gables. Yassi was there, and she's wearing some really bright reds, and I just love the way they popped against the color of the cabinets in the kitchen. So we had her pose again, a story type shot where she's looking in that cabinet for something, but we don't know what it is. So hopefully the viewer will see that, and the red will catch his eye, and he'll wonder what she's looking for in there. Go ahead. And Jim and I were talking about this shot just before we started here today, and again, this is in Green Gables, and somebody brought two pythons. I guess those are pythons, or I think they're pythons, right? Anyway, so. Snakes, very big snakes. I personally do not like snakes. I am not a snake person or herpetologist, but I did get brave enough to go in the room and shoot some photos, and I thought the girl here, the model Haley, was very, very brave to let that snake crawl around her like that, but it makes a good photo, I think. Here's another action shot. This is a friend of mine named Ashley, who lives in St. Pete. She's kind of a go-to model because she lives close and she loves to shoot. So this is an action shot. I actually have a camera that's waterproof, which is a good thing. When we went out and did some splashes in the bay, and you can't really see Ashley very well, but we certainly captured the droplets of water pretty well.
Is that a film camera or is it digital?
No, it's digital. It's called a Nikon AW1.
Okay.
And I don't use it a whole lot, but it's a good camera, and it sure comes in handy when it's time to get wet.
Yeah.
Here's another shot of Ashley. She's an artist, and she's very creative, and we were shooting in my studio with the black background, and she decided to paint her hands, and she had brought some paint with her, and there you are. That's
a real creative picture.
Yeah, I think I like that one too.
Yeah.
And this is another Ashley who also lives near me in St. Pete. This shot was taken, this is kind of a figure in the landscape shot. This is on the New St. Petersburg Pier. We met at the pier and took a walk around and took a bunch of shots. And I just like the forms of the it's very concrete, by the way. But I thought that looked good, and I'm not sure how big the screen is that everybody's looking at this on, but on a big screen, she looks really good.
Yeah.
And it's just a nice piece of I don't know what exactly you'd call it, but figure in the landscape, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm going to change direction here a little bit. I do travel and go on vacation and things like that, and take my camera with me, and I try to take some portraits when I'm doing that. I thought this shot was worthy of showing everybody. These two musicians were in Mexico playing this ancient, I guess I would call it a marimba. I don't know what they call it down there, but it sounded great. They could play all kinds of songs on it, and I think the photo shows the aging hands pretty well, and the aging marimba.
Yeah, that does have a story behind it.
Yeah. Again, in Mexico, this is a real fisherman mending his nets in his boat while he's having a cigarette. He was tied up on the beach, and I like the colors here, the color of the boat and the color of the sea, and his hat and everything kind of goes together well. The outboard motor is a little ugly, but so be it.
Yeah, couldn't have him take it off.
No, it was kind of tough. This shot is, again, obviously a travel shot. This was in Maine. Bar Harbor, Maine is where that was, I believe. I just saw these dinghies and they just looked pretty. And I waited for the sun to get in the right position and grabbed a shot of them.
Yeah, I was going to say that it looks like it's like an evening shot or an early morning shot with the sun reflecting off the water.
Yeah, it had actually been raining, so there was kind of one of those days where it turns orange and gets cloudy.
Okay, yeah.
And this is another shot actually leaving Bar Harbor on a boat, on a ship. And you can see the fog hanging over the islands in the background and the red sails in the sunset coming towards us. So that shot was actually published in Shutter magazine a few months ago.
That's fog in the background with the mountains sticking out of the top. That's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, I mentioned when we travel, I like to get some portraiture going. This particular shot was in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and this policeman was. There was supposed to be some sort of demonstration going on and where we were, and he was there to protect us from the demonstration. We never did see any demonstrators, but he was nice enough to let me take a nice photo of it. And this is a bartender hard at work in Cuba. That's in Havana. And I wanted to go to Cuba before it became too commercialized, and I had signed up to go to Cuba on a photography trip about two years ago, and unfortunately the trip was canceled because it didn't get quite enough people signed up for it. So I was real disappointed that I didn't get to go. And then I noticed online somewhere that there was a cruise ship leaving out of Tampa, which is half an hour from where I live, and the second stop actually was going to be Havana. I thought, well, if we take this cruise, I had never been on a cruise ship before. I thought, well, we'll take this cruise, and at least I get to spend a day in Havana.
Yeah.
So we did, and it was much better than I anticipated a cruise to be. It was really easy to drive to Tampa, park the car, get on the ship, and let somebody else do the rest of the driving.
Yeah.
And when we were in Havana, we got to see a lot of cool sights, and this bar with the red light and the bartender and everything was one of the things I brought back with me. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And this one.
Yeah.
Most people have heard about the old American cars in Cuba.
Right.
And the nice ones like this one are mostly being used as taxis these days. If you get away from downtown Havana, you'll see some old cruddy American cars that are still operating. But there's some really beautiful ones, this being an example of it. And I'm sure, I don't know that for sure that was a taxi there, but I'd bet money on it. And I just happened to see the shirt of the same color in the background. I'm going to show you some Photoshop work. Excuse me. I spent 2 hours talking to a person yesterday, and I haven't been talking to people since COVID, and it made me hoarse. But anyway, there was a show put on in Tampa 2 or 3 years ago called Dark Arts, and photographers and other people and artists were invited to submit work to the Dark Arts show. And so I did that. I decided to jump in and make some dark arts photos, and this one is one of them. This is Christina from Orlando, and the technique used was kind of like the one with the legs in the bathtub.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I took the photo of Christina squatted down in front of this couch, and then I had her get on the other side of the couch and took photos of her arms, including the dagger, at a number of different places, and then combined them in Photoshop and added the smoky effect in the background. That took a fair amount of work, I might add.
Yeah, I imagine.
A fair amount of time.
Yeah.
But it was fun. I enjoyed doing it. This is another one of Christina. She was posed and looked almost like a zombie, I guess, with this teddy bear. And I added some texture to make it look grungy, and added that to my dark art collection. Go ahead.
Okay.
And here's another shot at a dark arts photo. This is Tiffany French, and the techniques are much the same. Tiffany standing behind the couch with a sword in her hand, and then she posed on the couch in different positions, and I again shot the photos on a tripod, and then combined them in Photoshop, and kind of made the cuts a little gorier than they would have been otherwise.
Colin, we've got a couple of questions that popped up. I've been kind of neglecting the feed over here, but if you got a second with that kind of break there, we'll let's see. We have Victor asked, how do you get your inspiration for shooting with new models?
With new models?
N-E-W, new.
New models. Well, I spend a lot of time looking at work online, like Pinterest, and I get an idea, like a shot. Let's do a shot in an alley or something like that, and I'll line up a model and I'll tell her what we're going to do, and we go out there and kind of have an idea in the back of our head, but we don't necessarily know exactly what's going to be there until we get there, and then we start looking around and opening our eyes and trying to figure out what a good spot would be to shoot. And again, I'll go back to the shots that you saw of the ballerina downtown St. Petersburg. I knew that the Museum of Fine Arts had this spectacular front with the columns and that kind of thing. So I said, let's meet there, and then we'll walk around and see what else we can find. So I wanted the ballerina shots in front of something sort of dramatic, and so I picked a place that I knew would be dramatic, and then once we got there and started shooting, then we walked up an alleyway and we found the sun was really bright and unfiltered, and so we took some shots with some really dark shadows there, but they weren't planned. We didn't know that was going to happen when we got there. It was sort of, you'd kind of have to go out there and open your eyes and see what's around and what you can make work.
Yeah.
So I start out with a degree of planning, try to set up the location and a suitable person, for whatever the shoot's going to be, and then go there and wing it. I guess is the best way to put it.
Now, I have two other questions. Actually, these came from my wife. It's,
okay.
Let's see. Okay, she was saying, is it always in your mind when you do a shoot as far as the story?
More so now than before. I've leaned toward that direction. I look for certain things. I like to make the ordinary extraordinary. I like to come up with some sort of storyline, and I'm planning a shoot on a train coming up, not too long from now. And I know I want the model to sit by the train window on the inside, look kind of like she's sad, running away, getting out of town, whatever. I know that much about it. And then, again, the rest of it we'll wing when we get there. So one of my other sayings is don't be boring. So I try to tell a story that's is going to make you think, but not be the same old thing that everybody else is shooting, or else the photos won't stand out at all.
Yeah.
So.
And
so the answer to your wife's question is kind of I hope so. I try to.
And the second part question she had was what's been your favorite travel place to shoot?
Mexico. I didn't put too many of the Mexico shots in this show, but I went to Mexico last year with a small group. It was an organized tour, and we went to Merida, flew to Merida, and stayed in a small town called Izamal, and then went out each day to different locations. We went to several haciendas, to some cenotes, shot some in the city. We were there for the Day of the Dead, so we were there in the evening for the parade and the band and that kind of thing. And it was just great. It was so different from what I expected. Oh, we also shot in a lagoon where flamingos are just all over the place. I guess they go there for the season.
Yeah.
I was going to go back this year, but with the travel being the way it is, I'm not sure going to Mexico is a good idea. So
yeah,
I may maybe try it again next year. But I definitely like that. Merida's a real nice city. It's clean and reasonably modern and safe.
Okay, we'll go back to your slides here.
Okay. This is a shot in my studio. My studio doesn't have any big columns in it, unfortunately, but the models and the items in the foreground were shot in the studio, and the chair and the seat. It's a stone seat that the one model is sitting on, and it was the idea was a Greek or Greco-Roman. Can you hear that thunder? It's thundering bad.
I did. I heard that. Yeah.
Anyway, the models were posing as Greco-Romans,
Okay.
and I photoshopped in the columns and background from, don't tell anybody, but from Howie Mansion. So that's where the scene came from. Here's another Photoshop. I mentioned doing some bodybuilder shots, and I'm going to show you a couple of bodybuilder shots that I've done recently. And this was again shot in my studio with what they call panda lighting, which is lights from either side to show up the muscular structure. And it was shot on a plain background, and then the other shot I took in Tropicana Field a couple of years ago, and I used Photoshop to plop him, Jason is his name, to plop Jason down in front of the seats there.
Okay.
And here's another bodybuilder shot. I have a relationship with this gym in Tampa, which is mostly focused on bodybuilders, and our plan is to do quite a bit of the bodybuilder work. So if anybody knows of a bodybuilder who wants some shots and doesn't have a place to shoot them, which I guess is quite a problem, let them have them talk to me and we'll work something out. Go ahead. Now this is another one of Jason in the same gym. It's called the Forge. It's in Tampa, kind of on the south side. Go ahead. Here's some pin-up shots. This is Megan. She's an actress from California, but she was in town to act at the Free Fall Theater here in St. Pete, and she came over and we shot some pin-up shots in my studio.
I think I've seen that camera at one of our shoots that we did here.
Yeah. Yeah, it actually works. It's an old Graphic or Speed Graphic reporter type camera.
Yeah.
It does work, but it's very cumbersome to use, very hard to use to get in focus, what have you. But anyway, it makes a great prop. This one kind of makes me think of Rosie the Riveter, although if you look up close, you find the colors aren't really right. But it's a cute shot. Megan's a very good model. And then this is back in Utah. We toured Utah for several days, and these girls are wearing what they call prairie dresses, which I never knew what a prairie dress was, really. But we stumbled across. We were driving through this plain, I guess you call it, and there were those donkeys in the background which were wild. And so we posed the girls with the donkeys in the background. And this is Megan. This is a different Megan. She's posed on the beach, if you want to call it a beach, at the Great Salt Lake, right outside Salt Lake City. And there's a string of these posts that go from the shore all the way out, probably half a mile anyway, to the water. And I don't know what they were. They were evidently a dock or a walkway or something like that at one point. But as you can see, they're pretty rustic at this moment.
Yeah.
But anyway, I like Megan's look there, and she's wearing the prairie dress again, and her face is in shadow, but it has some atmosphere, I think. And this one is in Las Vegas, near Las Vegas. Actually, it's a dry lake bed. And I went out there. The publishers of Shutter magazine, which I mentioned before, throw a bash periodically, put on a conference. And one of the days was everybody went out to the desert to shoot photos. And of course, that's really why I went to the conference. I wanted to do the desert shots.
Yeah.
And the owner of one of the owners of the business that puts it on owns this Mustang. And I'm not sure if the girl wore the red dress because she knew the Mustang was going to be there or what, but it just it worked. So
yeah.
I got the photo. Same shoot. This photo ended up on the inside of a magazine, inside cover of a magazine. And the space around it, fortunately, gave them a place to put their credits for their editor and publisher and all that stuff. And again, the models on this event were kind of over the top in terms of clothing, but I really liked it. These were shot with natural light. I had a flash with me, but I didn't use it. Okay, we're back to Tampa Bay with this one. This is Desiree. Probably some of you know her, and that is Honeymoon Island. This was one of the earlier shots of my model photography, or portrait photography, if you will. Go ahead. Oh, there's a black and white of her, same location pretty much. And I like the black and white some. That's okay. This is my friend Christina, who lives in Virginia. She was shooting in Florida, and we were trying to come up with something a little different, and that's the result of that shot. And here's another shot in Mexico. This was not the trip that I mentioned earlier, but this place is called Expuja. They have a way of saying Expu that I can't duplicate, but
yeah.
It's a little tiny. It's between Cancun and the bigger towns south of there. But anyway, Expojar is just a little tiny resort on the beach, and it had this little shop there, and got this shot of the model with the shop in the background.
Yeah.
And this is Christina again, also in Mexico, posing with some hardware. And again, I'd like to mention that this is an example of where I use a slightly darker background, a little underexposed, and then a brighter model. And your eye, I think it's safe to say that your eye goes straight to the brighter point of the photo, and you see the model. Yeah. And then your eye will look around and you'll see the hardware in the hardware store second.
Right.
Go ahead. Couldn't resist this position. This was a stairway again in Tulum, Mexico, and I just like the graphic shape of the stairway and planted the model there.
Yeah, lines lead you right to her, and you've got that green plant there.
Yeah.
Very nice graphic. I always like this shot too.
This is at a junkyard, needless to say, and well, I guess it's not needless, but it is at a junkyard. And this is a school bus. This is where school buses go to die, I guess. And I grabbed that shot of her when I saw that come together.
I like the
go ahead. That's thunder clap. I'll move a little faster. We're getting we're an hour into it now, so I'll pick up the pace. This is again in the junkyard. This is Rachel, and we had smoke bombs with us, so that's not fake smoke. That's real smoke.
Yeah.
See, her car broke down. She's here's another guy. I don't have that many shots of guys, but again in the junkyard, I should say. He's playing the part of a truck driver. Go ahead.
I don't think those are OSHA-approved footwear.
No, I don't think there's much OSHA-approved around the junkyard anyway. This is Eris, and we went to Arcadia, Florida, because that's kind of halfway between where we each live, and we found that we knew there was an abandoned building there that was like an old gas station, and we posed a couple of shots around the abandoned building, kind of a juxtaposition of her, which she looks good and clean, and the building looks old and dumpy, so I like the contrast there.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I think there's another one of her.
Yeah,
there she is again. Same building, looking out the broken windows with some plants in the foreground. Go ahead. It's Tiffany again. Flapper. Gatsby shoot. We talked about Rachel before, shooting downtown at night. Gordon was with me that evening, and there she is with some Christmas-colored lighting.
Yeah, I like those night shots like that.
This is back in Mexico. I mentioned the flamingos in the lagoon. And, there were a ton of them, but they wouldn't come very close, so they're kind of off in the background. Go ahead. There's just a few more. I think there's another one of Olivia. That was Olivia we just saw, and this is Olivia on the beach in Mexico. And Megan back in the Great Salt Lake. And this is the last shot. This is Emma at the Great Salt Lake too, with a lot of blues.
Yeah, it is. Very nice.
Okay, so that's my show.
Okay.
If for anybody who liked that stuff, or if they want to see some of the actual nudes that we did, you can check out my website, which is scrolling by at the bottom of my screen. Hopefully it's yours, but if you look at colinwardphotography.com, you'll see a bunch of different shoots. Some of the pictures that you've seen today will be on there.
Yeah, so everybody,
there you have it.
We have Colin's social media and website going across there. colinwardphotography.com is his website, and his Instagram is Colin_Ward_photography. And then on Facebook, he is also Colin Ward Photos. So give him a follow and check out some of his images that are posted on these particular sites. And Colin, I really appreciate you coming on board to go through this today. It's very interesting. Like I say, I've followed your photography on social media, and you and I have been shooting at quite a few different events and everything, and it's always enjoyable to do that. And this has been a very enjoyable time getting a little bit more information from you.
Well, thanks, Jim, for having me, and thanks to anybody who's been watching and stuck around. I appreciate it, and thank you very much.
I think we got one more. Let's see. Victor said, how do you develop your image style? Very colorful. Victor Lopez.
I like poppy saturated styles mostly. I don't always do that, but just what appealed to me, and I would shoot with pretty contrasty lighting and a little tweak in Lightroom to get the most out of the files. The Fujifilm has strong colors anyway, so it's not too difficult to do that. So if I didn't want those kind of poppy colors, I'd be desaturating the photos from the way they came out of the camera. So a little bit of Lightroom work just boosts your vibrance, and lower the highlights and bring up the shadows a bit, and your business.
Yeah, very good. And I appreciate everybody that's been on here live viewing us, and I know there will be a lot of people that will come on and watch the replay. If anybody out there, photography-wise, or actually any of the models that work with us would like to do a showcase with me, just reach out to me at James Kilgo Photography on Facebook. Send me a message and we can set something up. Colin, appreciate it, and have a good evening and a great Labor Day. Yeah, good Labor Day tomorrow.
Yep. Okay. Right.
I'll catch you at the next shoot.
Thanks much. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.